Hi class, in this video I'll show you how to do number 2 on the review package. So question says Northstar use ABC to account for its crown wheel manufacturing process. Now remember ABC stands for activity-based costing. Okay, so company manager have identified 4 manufacturing activity that incur manufacturing overhead cost, material handling, machine setup, insertion, parts, and finishing. The budgeted activity cost for the upcoming year and then their allocation base as follows. So we have a table over here with all the allocation base and total costing for manufacturing overhead. That's the budget for. Northstar expect to produce 1,000 crown wheel during the year. The wheels are expected to use 3,000 parts, require 10 setup, and consume 2,000 hour finishing time. Job 420 use 150 parts, require 1 setup, and then consume 120 finish hours. Job 510 used 425 parts, require 2 setups, and consumes 320 finishing hours. So question first, compute the allocation rate for each activity. Let's do it on the right side, left side over here. For this problem, you're gonna use very minimal Excel, so mostly just for basic calculations. So we have, let's list all the activities in here. So materials handling. Let me zoom in a little bit. Machine setup, insertion of parts, and then finishing. Let me zoom out a little bit. All right, so for material handling, we budget for $12,000. Machine setup 3,400. Insertion parts 48,000. Finishing 80,000. All right, and then over here on the third column, I'm going to put in the number of activities we're going to have. So Northstar expected to produce 1,000 wheel over the year. The wheel is expected to use 3,000 parts. So for material handling, there will be 3,000 parts. And same thing for insertion parts. That's also 3,000 parts. And then number setup is 10 setup. So 10 setup, and then 2,000 finishing hour goes over here. All right, and then we're going to find out the cost for each activity. We're just going to use this column B, divided by column C will give you the cost of each activity. So that will equals to B divided by C, and then so $4, and then drag it down. All right, so which means that for material handling, it will cost $4 for each part. For insertion parts, cost you $16 for each part. Setup is $340, and then finishing is about $40 per hour. All right, and then for part 2, compute the overhead costs that should be assigned for job 420. So for job 420, let's see. So we're gonna use let's copy this over here. Copy, paste, copy and paste. Give me only numbers. Okay, so for job 420, it has 150 parts. So material handling, that's 150 parts. For insertion parts, that's also 150 parts. And then require 1 setup, so 1 setup over here. And then it has 120 finishing hours, so 120 goes over here. So for your total cost, I'm gonna use again B. Now for this one will be B times C now. Okay, so it's $4 for each part for 150 parts. So material handling for $600, and then for everything else, that's everything else. And then lastly, we're gonna find out the total cost. So total cost will be just the sum of all this above it. So job 420 should be costing about $8,140 for all manufacturing overhead. All right, and then we'll do the same thing for job 510. 510. Again, let's copy and paste this stuff over here. Just It's simpler. Okay, so for job 510, it would take 425 parts. It requires 2 setup and then 320 finishing hour. Again, we do the same thing, column B times column C, and then drag it down. Oh, that's not 0. So your total cost, sum of this above. So job 510 would cost you $21,980 for your manufacturing overhead. All right, so this is how you do number 2, and then we're gonna do number 3 in the next video.